Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Normal America Show. I'm your host, robnoerr. Hope everyone's having a great day. I'm having a day. I don't know if I'd say it's great. But it's a day. And any day is a good day. Ooh. So, little bit of a strange show as usual here when I'm not at my home office. We'll see where the show goes tonight and how long it goes. Just to let people know, not feeling the greatest today. I believe I have a fever. So a little dazed, a little out of it, if you will. So you'll have to forgive me for that. But, I try to keep in positive spirits, and I don't have anything to do right now, so I'll stick with you until I don't feel good. So right now it's fine though. Took some ibuprofen. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's great to be here. Let's go all night. I just get done saying I'm not feeling good. My body double's like, all night, baby. Probably not tonight. That probably won't happen tonight. What's a miss, Rob? Was that the title of my video or something? Where did I put? Durham fails again. I don't know. What do you mean? What's a miss, Rob? Oh, a miss is one word. I don't know. I could just tell I have a fever. I could just tell. My face is flush. I feel hot. I usually have allergy related problems. I mentioned yesterday I was sneezing all day. I was sneezing all day again today, so but life goes on. I'm not gonna sit here and complain about it. 1 second, I'm gonna grab a water. I'll be right back. So physically I feel ill, but mentally I feel strong. I feel good. I'm very excited this week. My man Hank, my son, gets his cast off Thursday. I can't wait. I just can't wait. I'm very pumped for that. The man is an active man. He wants his leg back. He's been running around like a maniac even with the cast on. So so I don't feel like I'm in a bad mood or anything. Just a little cold or something. So nothing to be too shook up about. But yeah, cast off day is gonna be amazing. I can't wait. I'm going live right after Sonsoul ended his stream. I try to pull in all the Sonsoul viewers. That's my market. In fact, I time everything I do to be immediately after Sonsoul does something. My eating schedule's immediately after Sonsoul eats. I stream after Sonsoul. I try to stay up 1 minute past when Sonsoul's bedtime is. That way I can feel like more of a man. By the way, my favorite stream I've ever seen Sonsoul do was in the middle of the night. And him, and I believe it was his girlfriend, or maybe it was just a friend that was a lady, were cooking shrimp. I liked it. I was like, I can watch this. Finally, something my wife loves cooking shows. So I was like, see, it's combining both of our hobbies. Me doing the stupid streaming stuff, and my wife's love of cooking show. Her favorite show, I don't know if it's her favorite show. The show I catch her watching the most is the Great British Baking Show, which is pretty funny. It's a decent show as far as cooking shows go. It's funny. It shows you some cultural differences between the UK and the United States. The prize for winning the Great British Baking Show, and it's not like Chopped. There's two different types of competition show. There's the Chopped format, which is, you get 4 new people every episode, and then the winner wins a small prize. But then there's the kind of Survivor format, which is 16 people, and then each episode one's eliminated, and then there's a bigger prize at the end. The prize for winning the Great British Baking Show is like no monetary prize. You just get a trophy or, a platter or something. Like these people, yeah, it's just funny. And Noel from, I forget what show he was on, but he's a comedian. He's hilarious on it. It's good stuff. Yeah, I watched me some Gordon Ramsay too. Absolutely. Yeah, you were a little tipsy that night cooking shrimp. So, I believe. I haven't been drunk on stream since I did the Odyssey stream thing. As a rule, I made an ass of myself drinking on stream several times. One time just playing video games with people playing Jackbox games. A couple times on the drunken debates. I didn't think I was too bad, but I was drunker than I should have been. But the Odyssey thing, I was blackout drunk. And that was because I forgot that I had to do it. And I was at a party, and I couldn't let Lauren Southern and them down. They wanted me in for the Odyssey games. So I didn't even know anything. I didn't know there was a cash prize. They just said, hey, we sent you some things. Make sure you use them when you're streaming. You'll have to open them up. One of them was a stripper pole. So my wife yelled at me. She thought it was like some joke, like I got her a stripper pole. I was like, I have no idea where the hell this thing came from. Here it was from the Odyssey games. I didn't make it to the round where I had to use the stripper pole. I had to eat bugs, and then I lost at that. And then I had to try to put a puzzle together that looked like the U.S. Capitol, which I refused to do and instead called Lauren a Nazi and yelled about streamers. Just took the forfeit. You'd recommend stop drinking altogether? I drink very sparingly. I maybe get drunk twice a year now. I don't even like drinking with dinner. And it's not because I would have considered myself an alcoholic at one point. But I didn't have a moment where I quit. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like I was like, oh my God, it's so bad now I need to quit. It wasn't like that. I just met my wife, and we just got busy dating and buying a house and getting a job that was more serious. And I just didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like drinking. I was a social drinker, and I didn't need to do that to hang out socially anymore. But I was never the type of person that even liked drinking a beer with dinner or a glass of wine. I didn't really care. If I was drinking, I was getting drunk. I was never just a one beer person. If I was going somewhere and knew I was driving home, I would just be like, nope, soda for me, fine, or water or whatever. But yeah. Yeah, hangovers, right? I know. It's now if I'd have, you'll go out to a brewery and you'll just do like, the breweries are big now where I'm at. And so, they'll give you, I forget what they call them, but you get like the sampler, of little 4-ounce beers or 2-ounce beers of just everything they have there. I'll drink like the equivalent of 2 or 3 beers at one of those things. I feel like shit the next morning. And, I'm a guy that used to drink a case a day when I was drinking. So it's, it is what it is. What's up? So, hey, hello to everyone. It's great to see you all here. So if you're just tuning in, I have a fever, and the only prescription is Airborne or Tylenol or something like that, because I legit have a fever. Just a little cold or something, allergies, who knows. But I'm fine. My son gets his cast off Thursday. So, yeah, it's a good week for me. I think tomorrow evening I'll be home, and I'll be doing a stream with Aircraft Sparky. So that should be fun. And then as far as schedule the rest of the week, probably just normal shows around 9 p.m. Eastern time as always. So it should be a good time. What's on? How many kids I just have one son. I was 36 when I had him. So I was an old dad. But yeah, he's my only kid. My wife and I have been married for 8 years. Our son's almost 2. So we were married a considerable amount of time before we had a kid. Should have got the vax. There's my friend Sparky. What's up? Doing fine. Little sick, little fever, but doing fine. Not gonna let that stop me, unless it does, and then it will. What are we talking about tonight? Good question. I thought we'd talk a little about the Danchenko trial and what it means, and then maybe talk about transmission, automatic versus standard. No. transition as in vaccines preventing it. I thought maybe that's the direction we would go. Fitting Sonsel was on the chat there. Because as you all know, my big bugaboo about vaccines the entire time wasn't the actual vaccine. Take it. I don't care. Take it. Don't take it. It's a decision for each individual and their, doctor, etc. I was just against mandates. And as you know, in debate after debate I had when discussing mandates, I would routinely talk about the only possible justification for a mandate was that it prevented, or that it was necessary to prevent you from spreading it to other people. We don't have the government make someone's life hell to force them to make medical decisions that are better for themselves. So we would never accept, for example, saying, oh, we're going to make you jump through a bunch of hoops and get tested every week if you're obese, because your blood pressure might be high. And if your blood pressure is too high, then you can't go, restaurant. You can't go to restaurants. You can't do this. You can't do that. We would never do that. And so the only possible justification is, well, it prevents transmission. And now we're starting to find out. People are saying, well, we never said that. We never said that it prevented transmission. We didn't say that. So we'll talk about that a little tonight. First, I wanted to talk about Danchenko. So first I have to say this. It's to my great shame that although this is a continuation of what I consider to be the biggest political scandal probably in the history of our country, I unfortunately am grossly under-researched on the actual trial of Danchenko, and that's because I've been ridiculously busy with my life and work. Now this is the part where I tell you, look at all these left-wing streamers that it's their career to do this. And I think that I'm quite well more researched on these topics than them. And I do it just as a hobby. I'm working, I kid you not when I tell you last week I worked 110 hours. The week before that I worked close to 85. So I've just been putting in ridiculous hours, both at work and through trainings and things of that nature. So when you're doing that on top of trying to be a father and a husband, sometimes it's hard to keep up on a lot of these stories up to my standard. So I will try my best to give broad strokes of exactly what the Danchenko trial was about. But follow someone like Technofog on Twitter, and they have breakdowns of these sort of every day. So, send me money, and then I could quit my job, and then I'd have more time to research. So, I'll pause here. I figure if y'all could donate to me $50,000 here in the next 5 minutes. So, I'll just take a brief pause here and wait for that. Okay, I think it came in. I think Sparky sent that amount. So, thank you, Sparky. $50,000. Mucho appreciated. So we could continue. No, I love doing this. I love streaming. So, like everything else, you make sacrifices. I'm certainly not the first person to, Technofog. Yeah, that Technofog. Yep, that's him. So Igor Danchenko was a person who in 2008 was investigated as a Russian spy. He worked at the Brookings Institute, which is sort of a left-wing think tank. He allegedly had told several people, thank you for the resubscription, Bandit. He allegedly told several people there that he was looking for information that he could take back and sell to the government of Russia. And so the FBI started an investigation into him. That investigation ended only because Danchenko moved out of the United States. And so they no longer felt it was a priority, since he was no longer within the territorial boundaries of the United States, to continue that investigation. Needless to say, he comes back. This is what is confirmed. I'll try to steelman this as much as possible. Igor Danchenko is a Russian national. He was the primary subsource for the Steele dossier. In other words, the dossier that was used to justify the spying of Carter Page and thereby the spying of the Trump administration and campaign, based on the alleged argument that Trump was colluding with Russia to try to get dirt on Hillary Clinton, was sourced from this guy who was a Russian who was giving dirt on Donald Trump. Literally the exact thing that we were told was the reason for the justification of the investigation into Trump and his team. That they were colluding with Russia to get dirt on opponents. That's exactly what the Hillary team was doing. We now know that. They were paying for it. Igor Danchenko met with several characters. Sergei Melian, who I don't have much to say on him right now. I need to look more up to that. Met with a man named Charles Dolan. Charles Dolan was a longtime DNC operative, friend of the Clintons, who was in communication with the DNC and with the Clintons. Charles Dolan was one of the people we learned in this trial that many of that at least some of the claims in the Steele dossier were sourced from Charles Dolan himself. So Clinton operatives as the source for the dossier that would be used to spy on Trump. By the way, none of it confirmed. We'll talk about what that means. Now, I know if Pisco was here, he'd say, Rob, that's not true. Some of it was confirmed. Yes, some of the Steele dossier was confirmed. For example, the Steele dossier said things like this. Donald Trump. That's true. There is a human being named Donald Trump. Don Jr. Also true. A man by the name of Don Jr. The Steele dossier, like any good lie that you put out there, had things that were publicly confirmable, such as Carter Page speaking at a university in Russia and other things of this nature. And so then stupid people could say, well, look, that was confirmed. Carter Page spoke in Russia. Therefore, I believe that Trump got peed on by Russian hookers and Carter Page was offered billions of dollars in a Russian gas company called Rosneft to help steal the election for Donald Trump. Makes sense. I mean, after all, he did speak at a Russian university. Sure. True. Right? There were things that were already publicly available at the time of the dossier's creation that were included in the dossier that were then used so people could say, see, some of the dossier has been confirmed. That's true. But none of the details that warrant calling Carter Page or anyone in the Trump administration an asset of Russia were confirmed. None of them. Not one of them. None. It claimed that Trump's lawyer Michael Cohen was in Prague in a secret meeting with Kremlin officials discussing quid pro quos basically on how to steal the election and favors that Trump would do for him. Was confirmed to not be true almost immediately by merely looking at the passports of Michael Cohen. They claimed that billions of dollars in this Russian gas company, I think 10% or 20% of it was offered to Carter Page. Not true. If I pay for a dossier that says the following: 1, Joe Biden is president of the United States. 2nd, at one time he lived in Scranton. 3rd, he had been seen publicly with officials from other countries even before his time as president. And 4th, he's selling nuclear secrets to the Chinese in exchange for clippings of little girls' hair. And the FBI then said, "Oh boy, we're gonna get a FISA warrant to spy on Joe Biden." Then Biden supporters wouldn't accept me saying, "But wait a minute, so much of what I said's been proven to be true. Joe Biden is president. Joe Biden did spend time in Scranton. Joe Biden has been pictured with foreign leaders." They would say, "Of course, everybody knows all that shit. That doesn't prove that he's selling out the United States to China." Exactly. But they're willing to accept it because Orange Man bad. So they accept it. Now, I know I re-explained this a lot. I'll try to do this quickly. The character of Christopher Steele is basically irrelevant to this story in the sense of Christopher Steele only matters insofar as he compiled data. He talked to people and then related to what people said to him to the FBI and to Hillary Clinton's team and to the media. And you say, well, that's important. Maybe Christopher Steele had motivations and things like that. Of course, that's all true. But his claims only matter insofar as you don't have the claims of the people he's talked to. Here's the best example I could give. And I've given this example several times. Let's say my neighbor's house catches on fire. And the police come, they put out the fire and the police come because they suspect wrongdoing. And they interview me. And they say, did you see anything suspicious? And I say, I didn't, but my other neighbor, let's call him Bob. Our other neighbor on the other side of the street, Bob told me that he saw a black van with 3 people in ski masks prowling around the home before the fire was started. So the police would take that information and say, thank you. You didn't see anything, though? That's just what you heard Bob say? I'd say, yeah. The next step, then, would be the police talking to Bob. Now, let's say they finally get around to talking to Bob, and they say, your other neighbor told us that you said to him that you saw a black van before the incident with 3 people in ski masks come out. And Bob says, oh, I was just joking. I was just pulling his leg. That never happened. Does it matter at that point if the police come back to me and I say, no, that must be what happened. That's what Bob said. The police are going to be like, yeah, okay, Bob was just pulling your leg. That didn't happen. The police aren't going to say, well, we better investigate this black van with the 3 masked men. The police would say, oh, okay. Me, robnoerr, my information was only relaying other information of the actual person involved, of the actual witness. So in this case, Christopher Steele could say, I heard Danchenko say this. I heard Charles Dolan say this. Then when the FBI talks to Danchenko and Danchenko says, yeah, I was kind of just joking. None of this stuff was confirmed. It was just hearsay. That's it. End of story. It doesn't matter how credible they found Christopher Steele because Christopher Steele's just relaying information from other people's first-hand accounts. He has second-hand information. Right, Christopher Steele was doing a job. Absolutely. But even then, as someone compiling evidence from witnesses, his claims no longer matter if the FBI talks to those witnesses and those witnesses say, no, Christopher Steele's wrong. That's it. He has no first-hand knowledge. The fact that he was compiling data, right, Steele could have made it up, of course. There are different levels to that. But now what we know is that after the second warrant, the FBI did, in fact, talk to the primary subsource who was making most of the claims that they relied on, who was a Russian named Igor Danchenko, who they had investigated for spying previously. And that Russian told them that it was garbage. Now, does that mean that you're like, but wait a minute, could Christopher Steele have had motivations for doing this? He was being paid. Of course, all of that's true, but I don't even have to get into that. What I'm saying for the purposes of what we know is that should have been the end, and yet it wasn't. And the Inspector General said that that was what troubled him the most. That after talking to the primary subsource, the FBI related to the FISA court that they finally talked. First off, it's an outrage that it took them 6 months or so of using this to spy on the Trump team before they even attempted to verify by talking to the subsource. And then once they did, the subsource basically said, yeah, I can't confirm any of this. It was just a rib, basically. And then the FBI goes back to the FISA court and says, we talked to the subsource, and we think he was telling the truth. And the FISA court's like, oh, okay. And that's it. They don't say, oh, and what he told the truth was that this was kind of garbage. That there's no there. That's criminal. That's outrageous that that's what the FBI did. Again, the threshold for spying on a candidate for president and a president should be so high that you almost have to be 99.9% certain that they did what you're accusing them of. Instead, the FBI never confirmed. And then once they talked to the primary subsource who said, yeah, I can't confirm it, it's basically just random stuff I heard that I was just kind of over beers. We were just talking. It's outrageous that for 6 more months they continue to spy on, continue to get these warrants. Indefensible. Nonetheless, that's the story. Igor Danchenko, Russian, accused of spying. He was in contact with Charles Dolan, a DNC operative. He then later was in contact with Christopher Steele, who was being paid through intermediaries by the DNC and the Hillary team. So in other words, Charles Dolan, who's connected with Hillary's team in the DNC, is meeting with a suspected Russian spy. Then that Russian spy, we don't know what they talked about. Then the Russian spy leaves. Then Hillary's team pays Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS, who then pay Christopher Steele, who goes back and talks to the same suspected Russian that had already talked to the DNC connected and Hillary connected Charles Dolan, and he tells them this story. This is all confirmed of the official record. We now know that this story was garbage. Whether Igor Danchenko intentionally made it up and misled the FBI, or whether Christopher Steele knew it was made up and misled the FBI, or maybe they believed it was true. We now know that a Russian national actually spread disinformation that was the most effective Russian interference into the election, that the FBI used for a year to spy on Trump's team. There was Russia collusion. It was with the FBI and Hillary's team, with Russians. It was disinformation. Now, what Igor is on trial for here, just like Sussman, who was another Clinton-connected operative, was lying to the FBI. That Danchenko allegedly lied about his contacts with Charles Dolan, with this Milan character. That's what the charge was. And he was found innocent today, or found not guilty today, not innocent, but I'm not surprised. I'm not even that concerned with it. The problem is I don't really give a shit about Igor Danchenko, and I don't really think that that's even in the top 50 of things I'm concerned about, him lying with contacts with Charles Dolan. Or whoever else he supposedly lied. Same with Sussman. Again, Igor's first spying charge, he wasn't charged. He was investigated by the FBI because he allegedly told people at the left-wing Brookings Institute where he was working at the time that he wanted information that he would be able to sell to Kremlin agents on U.S. assets. That's why he was being investigated in 2008. So it's not surprising that a Virginia jury is going to say, we respect the FBI, we hate Trump, we don't care. Sussman, dead to rights, they had lying to the FBI. The problem with Danchenko was that the prosecution's witnesses from the FBI, including Agent Kevin Nelson, basically admitted, from my reading of it, I didn't do any due diligence. Because Danchenko's claims like, I didn't lie. They just didn't look into things. And the FBI agent that was tasked with looking in is like, yeah, I didn't look into anything. Doesn't matter if he cut a deal. What does that matter? Well, he left the country, which is why, and then he came back later. Just the same way with Veselnitskaya, the lawyer that saw Don Jr. Yeah, it's a suburb of D.C., basically, that Northern Virginia where it was. But what did we learn? What is the narrative? Now, when the Sussman verdict came down, everyone was like, oh boy, Durham's full of shit. See, we told you the dossier was good. We told you the FBI was good. Well, that whole trial, the whole Sussman trial, was the FBI basically saying, oh, Sussman lied to us. Had we known he was being paid by Hillary's team, we would have done things differently. So a not guilty verdict could be read strongly as, oh, so the FBI's full of shit. They did know. And they just didn't care. The same is true here. Now, the problem is, Durham's always been a cleanup operation. Durham was appointed by Bill Barr. The entire point was to go after low-hanging fruit, to not impugn the FBI, to basically wag the finger at the FBI at the end of this and say, tisk, tisk, tisks, they did some things wrong, but no one's going to be held accountable, and now we did our due diligence and we pointed it out. Goodbye. Just like the IG report was, that's the goal. Get it out of the way now, then on the off chance that we ever actually have real populists that get into power, they could say, we're not relitigating that. We already did. We already had the special counsel look into it. It's all good. It's all good now. That's what this whole thing's been about. It's not about going after the FBI for their corruption. It's about going after periphery people that supposedly lied to the FBI. Oh, the FBI, they tried to do things the right way. They just got lied to by Igor Danchenko and Sussman. That's the narrative. Oh, boy. And so I had predictable characters messaging me today. See, not guilty. Ha ha ha. See, you were wrong all this time, Rob. Wrong about what? I said from the get-go no one big would go down. I said from the get-go probably Sussman and Danchenko would be found not guilty. They weren't found not guilty of spreading lies. They were found not guilty of not lying about a particular conversation that they had. That doesn't mean what they said was true as far as the claims in the dossier. Someone can explain to you. I can't re-explain every time. Maybe I'll put a text box up or something like this. You can't see me because I'm not at my home computer. And when I'm not at my home computer, I used to have a camera that I used, but that camera broke. I've decided also, because I get doxxed and things like that, to no longer, if I'm at a friend's house, if I'm at a work office, if I'm at a location that's not my personal home, unless I'm like streaming a political event or something like that, to no longer put any camera or anything like that that could lead to those people that are generous enough to leave me use those facilities be doxxed. So, but so if you see me streaming any day that's not Wednesday, Thursday, Friday when I'm at home, it'll probably be just audio only. I can still do window shares and stuff, but no camera. And I'm not going to waste my time buying a new camera. I need to buy a new computer for my house is the next agenda. But anyways, that's why you can't see me, Mitch. But thank you for asking. It looks a little silly just having podcast format, but oh well. Also, I still have a fever here, so hopefully the medicine starts kicking in. HoloLive virtual, Rob. I don't even begin to know how to do that stuff. Now, my take from the get-go, I had a take that's different than almost anyone I've seen. I really don't give a shit if Danchenko and Dolan get locked up. And here's the take that I said even before Durham. I said this, and I think that it raised eyebrows. I don't think Hillary necessarily should be locked up for this. Or at least, it's not, by a long shot, it's not my biggest concern. Or when I say Hillary or people in her team. The people in her team that crafted the Russia collusion narrative. If they took information to the FBI knowingly lying, yeah, that's a crime, and they should be charged. But the real villain that needs punished here isn't the Hillary team. That's not the most troubling aspect of this by a long shot. What's the most troubling aspect? Does anyone have a guess? That's right, Aftershock. The FBI. That's who is the real culprit here. The FBI took dirt that they knew was paid for by Hillary Clinton's team, that they knew came from someone that they had previously suspected of being a Russian spy, that they didn't try to confirm before using it to get a FISA warrant, that then leaked to the press, that started a years-long investigation, continued to get FISA warrants, even to spy on Trump after he was in office. Had an FBI lawyer materially change witness to be able to continue to get that warrant. Lied or misled the FISA court 17 times to continue to be able to spy on Trump's team. This was occurring simultaneously while they were doing everything possible to let Hillary Clinton off the hook and her team, including allowing them to delete subpoenaed evidence. So Durham going after Sussman and Danchenko? Sorry, I'm not impressed. And I saw people defending him today. Well, his closing statements, he excoriated the FBI. He said that they did a lot of wrong. Right, so the IG. We're beyond finger wagging. Tisk tisk. I don't like what the FBI did there, but we're not going to bring charges. You might as well say nothing. It's a mop-up operation. Now maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised and at the last minute Danchenko will file charges against someone in the FBI. Could happen. We could also all be abducted by aliens. I'd say the chances of that happening are 0.00001%. But hey, I'll be the first one celebrating if it does occur. So now, predictably, Durham goes after a couple of small fries. His entire strategy is the FBI got lied to by these folks. Those folks are let off the hook. The establishment bootlicking types celebrate. Yay! See, it was all a witch hunt. Durham was just a witch hunt. No one did anything wrong. Can we move on now from Russia collusion in 2016? And here we are. Remember, this isn't the only thing. This FISA warrant wasn't the only thing. We also know... Let me find... I do apologize. I'm a little out of it. Remember when we found out Clintons can't pay a technology company to infiltrate servers on Trump Tower? This is from February, Fox News. Where's the date in this? February 12th. Lawyers for Clinton campaign paid a technology company to infiltrate servers belonging to Trump Tower and later the White House in order to establish an inference or narrative to bring the government agencies linking Donald Trump to Russia. Durham filed a motion February 11th focused on potential conflicts of interest related to the representation of former Clinton campaign lawyer Michael Sussman, who's been charged with making false statement. The indictment against Sussman says that he told FBI General Counsel James Baker in September, less than 2 months before the election, that he was not doing work for any client, but it turned out that he was. But Durham's filing on February 11th in a section titled Factual Background reveals that Sussman, quote, had assembled and conveyed the allegations to the FBI on behalf of at least 2 specific clients, including Technology Executive 1, at a U.S.-based internet company and the Clinton campaign. Durham filing said Sussman's billing records reflect he repeatedly billed the Clinton campaign for his work with Russia Bank on the Russia Bank 1. This was the Alpha Bank allegations. The filing revealed that Sussman and the tech executive, it was Jaffe was his name, had met and then communicated with another law partner who was serving as general counsel to the Clinton campaign. Sources told Fox News that lawyer is Mark Elias from the law firm Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie then hires Fusion GPS, who hires Christopher Steele. Durham's filing states that in July 2016, the tech executive worked with Sussman, a U.S. investigative firm retained by Law Firm 1 on behalf of the Clinton campaign, numerous cyber researchers and employers at multiple internet companies to assemble the purported data and white papers. In connection with these efforts, tech executive 1 exploited Rodney Jaffe exploited his access to he's being paid for by Hillary's team, right? He exploited his access to non-public and proprietary internet data. He also enlisted the assistance of researchers, I think it was Georgia Tech, maybe, at a U.S.-based university who were receiving and analyzing large amounts of internet data in connection with a pending federal government cybersecurity research contract. Tech Executive 1 tasked these researchers to mine internet data to establish an inference and narrative tying then-candidate Trump to Russia, Durham states. In doing so, Tech Executive 1 indicated he was seeking to please certain VIPs, referring to individuals at Law Firm 1 and the Clinton campaign. Durham writes that during the trial, the government will prove among the data that Rodney Jaffe exploited was domain name system DNS internet traffic pertaining to a particular healthcare provider, Trump Tower, Donald Trump's Central Park apartment building, and the executive office of the President of the United States. Durham states that the internet company that Tech Executive 1 worked for had come to access and maintain dedicated servers for the executive offices of the president as, quote, part of a sensitive argument whereby it provided DNS resolutions to the EOP. Tech Executive 1 and his associates exploited this arrangement by mining the EOP's DNS traffic and other data for the purpose of gathering derogatory information about Donald Trump. They were spying on Trump's internet traffic. So Hillary's team was spying on internet traffic, trying to concoct the Trump-Russia collusion story, which they then spread the bullshit Alpha Bank story. They were creating this dossier with the help of a suspected Russian spy that was all garbage that was used to then spy on Trump. It's Trump's team. They were going after George Papadopoulos by planting spies and confidential human sources based on claims that were made by a Clinton ally in Australia, whose name escapes me right now. All of this concocted by the Hillary team, concocting the Trump-Russia bullshit story. When it was they that were communicating with suspected Russian spies, concocting this. Don Jr., when he met with that Russian lawyer, Veselnitskaya, walked out after 10 minutes when he realized she had nothing to say. We were told that that was treasonous, that Don Jr. should be locked up. That lawyer, Veselnitskaya, met personally with Fusion GPS's owner, who was being paid for by Hillary Clinton, a man by the name of Glenn Simpson. Met with him the day before and the day after the meeting with Don Jr. Hi everyone, Justin Friedkin's here, one of the dumbest people I've ever debated. Thanks so much for being here, Justin Friedkin. He says that I'm concocting nonsense. Come on, Rob, just admit you're a fucking morons. Well, apparently you're not a good typer. Take the L, dumb fuck. Right. And this is the credibility. Now, this is someone, just so we know who Justin Friedkin is. Justin Friedkin's like a progressive type, like socialist type. He'll rail often, for example, about how our system is rigging the game against people like, civil rights leaders back in the day. The FBI was illegally spying on them. And money and corruption in politics means that we can't get progressive values that we really need. But he'll trust everything the FBI says, as long as it's against Trump. What am I wrong about? And again, when I debated Justin Friedkin, I'm just not going to respond to him here anymore after this. It's worthless. He's beneath me. He won't, just like all the other people I've talked about in these issues, he can't talk about the specifics of them. So what he'll do is just say, you're just wrong. The trial said you're wrong. What am I wrong about in what I've said here specifically? Am I wrong that the Hillary team paid Rodney Jaffe, a tech executive, through Michael Sussman, to get DNS data based on a contract that he had with the government that was directly targeting Donald Trump to tie him to Russia? That then created the Alpha Bank story, which was bullshit. Am I wrong about any of that? Nope, not wrong about that. Am I wrong that Igor Danchenko was a suspected Russian spy that was being investigated in 2008? Nope, I'm not wrong. Am I wrong that he was the primary subsource for the salacious allegations that led to the FISA warrant looking in to Carter Page? Nope, I'm not wrong about that. That looking into Carter Page was also allowing them to look into people that Page was communicating with and people that they were communicating with, which would be effectively most of Trump's campaign. No, I'm not wrong about that. There's nothing. It's just, dude, take the L. Take the L. Straw man, take the L. What have I said here that's factually wrong? Nothing. They're not sending their best, the bootlicking left. You're wrong. Ah. When the shoe's on the other foot, when eventually you have someone like DeSantis or Trump in office, and hopefully they appoint credible people that are actually interested in going after this corruption, all of a sudden it'll be cool to be skeptical of institutions again. I don't trust the DOJ. Now, when they're going after, no, I don't trust, DeSantis' DOJ when they're pointing out evidence of crimes and stuff. But oh boy, when it's people going after Trump, we believe everything they say. Notice he hasn't said what I'm wrong about. Because I'm not wrong about any of this. So what do we know from today's trial of Danchenko? What was learned? We learned Justin Friedkin doesn't know what he's talking about, right? That's true. We learned, obviously, that people on the left will take any bullshit to justify the corruption. Did I not save that? We learned in this trial, despite what Justin Friedkin claimed. By the way, Justin, you probably missed it. But Justin Friedkin, the day after our debate, did a big debunking of what I said. And he posted a link showing that actually the FBI did make attempts to verify. They did make attempts to verify. And then he stopped reading after the headline because literally, if you read the article that he was posting, it literally made a mockery of their attempts to verify. We learned that the FBI offered to pay Christopher Steele $1 million on top of the money they were already paying him if he could verify the dossier. We know that they never gave that money because he couldn't verify. We know that the FBI thought that Christopher Steele was lying, but they still were paying him. We know that the FBI paid Igor Danchenko as a confidential human source, CHS, which meant that Freedom of Information Act requests and such could not be obtained based on the information. We learned that at least 2 FBI agents testified that they wanted to look in to Charles Dolan, the DNC and Clinton connected operative, and that the top brass told them never mind, not to look into it, despite the fact that they wanted to. We learned that Charles Dolan's claims made it into the dossier. Charles Dolan himself testified to that. We learned that the agent, Kevin Nelson, that was tasked with investigating Igor Danchenko, such as his place of employment and employment history, that was supposed to give him a lie detector test, never did any of that. The FBI took Russian-sourced disinformation that we now know was garbage and used it as a reason to spy on the Trump campaign and then the Trump presidency. All the while telling us that it was important to do so because allegedly Trump was trying to get dirt on Hillary that would be disinformation from Russians. The FBI was literally doing what they were accusing Trump of doing. Except Trump would just be able to spread disinformation on social media and through the media, and that would be it. The FBI was actually able to investigate people, spy on people. That's what we learned. A Virginia jury finding Danchenko not guilty of lying about communications he had with certain people in no way exonerates or changes the facts of the FBI's culpability whatsoever. It does not change the fact that the dossier was disinformation. It does not change the fact that the primary subsource was a suspected Russian spy. It does not change the fact that the FBI took that information that they knew was paid for by Hillary Clinton, that was concocted by a suspected Russian spy, and they used it to get a FISA warrant 4 times, and they never were able to verify any of the salacious claims within. It does not change the fact that they lied or omitted things 17 times in order to obtain those warrants. It does not change the fact that they were paying the people that they knew the Hillary team was paying for this dirt and information. It does not change the fact that they offered to pay additional monies in the form of $1 million if any of it could be confirmed by the guy compiling it, Christopher Steele, and he was unable to do so. None of those facts are changed. If any of these facts would have gone the other way, if it would have been Donald Trump using his Department of Justice and RNC and Trump-connected people paying for opposition research that was sourced by a Russian spy in order to smear his opponents and investigate them and spy on them, there would be blood in the streets. Fascism, they would scream. But Orange Man bad. Justin Friedkin's okay with it. He doesn't know any of the details. He just knows I've taken the L. Really, in what way? Now, if you remember, when I debated Justin Friedkin, his big cope was, oh, well, you know, man, like, what should we do about it? It's capitalism, man. It's capitalism. Didn't have anything to say about the specifics. Didn't know about those. But it's capitalism, man. It's just like just get rid of capitalism, right, man? Like, yeah, I trust the FBI if they're going after Trump with capitalism, man. Can we get, you know, hey, yeah, I don't like the premise of your question. Hey, man, that's like, you're using fallacies. And, like, I don't like that. I don't like the fact you made fun of Keith Ellison for something we can't prove. Like, and I don't like the fact that you pointed out when I did the same with Trump and people like, hey, man, like, we need it. You have tactics when you debate in your style. And I don't like it. I don't know about the specifics of any of these things that I brought up. So can we please not talk about when I bring something up and then you immediately know more about it than me? Can we stop talking about it? Can we just talk about capitalism, man? Yeah, that guy who graced us with his presence on the chat here. Thanks, that guy. Yeah. Somehow still better than the guy that was bragging about shoving Molly up his ass. No specifics. None of them ever do. The only one who even tries to come close is Pisco, which Pisco's always just going to default to, well, prosecutorial discretion. That's just how legally they're allowed to do what they did. That's just how they chose to do so. Hard disagree on that, Ro. Surian says, maybe. Who knows? Maybe I'll redo this again just for shits and grins. Give me a second.
Now we turn to YouTuber.
Be acknowledged.
Let's see if I can find the clip after our debate with Justin Friedkin where he debunks my claim that the FBI didn't try to verify. Let's see if we can find this clip. It's a good one. Maybe he took it down. Stop. How does it do this?
Koval. Claim that
Here we go. I do apologize that you have to watch this, meathead, but here we go. All right, here's Justin Friedkin. He's going to debunk, right?
I came across not doing well. But Rob's key point was that the FBI just trusted Christopher Steele and never attempted to verify the dossier, and that is simply not true. The FBI attempted to verify allegations in the Steele dossier. This is from KXLY. Justice Department Inspector General's report paints a more thorough picture than ever before on what the FBI found when it tried to verify information in Christopher Steele's dossier on Donald Trump and Russia. I made the claim that about 70% of the Steele dossier was verified. That was Steele's claim. Christopher Steele said 70% of what was in the dossier was verified. Hey, Ant fans, no.
That's it. So he reads the article. So his big claim is, one, the guy that compiled, man, Christopher Steele said that 70% of it was verified. Right. First off, let's accept that that's true. The 70% that had nothing to do with crimes being verified has nothing to do with anything. Yes, you're right. There's a person named Donald Trump. Carter Page did speak at a university in Russia. All true. That's verified. It was publicly available information at the time Steele created the dossier. That doesn't verify the salacious claims that made it necessary to spy on Trump's team. Secondly, no shit, the guy that compiled it said he believed it. That's your evidence? Third, look at the source that he's using. Notice he just reads sort of one or two sentences. How the FBI attempted to verify. See, Rob's wrong. Rob's big point was that, his big point was that they tried to verify it, but that they didn't try to verify, but they didn't. So KXLY, how the FBI attempted to verify. Okay, let's see if we can find this exact source. Look familiar? Let's read his source that he used to debunk me. Ready? Here we go. Remember, he says, Rob's big claim was that the FBI used this dossier to spy on Trump's team and they didn't attempt to verify it. That's not true. Here's the source. See? The article says how it attempted to verify. This is the source that he used for his audience to claim that he proved that I was wrong about this point. So let's see, how did the FBI attempt to verify the allegations? My claim was that they never successfully verified it, and they didn't even attempt before they used it. The Justice Department Inspector General's report released Monday paints a more thorough picture than ever before on what the FBI found when it tried to verify information in Steele's dossier on Trump and Russia, including attempts to verify the existence of videotapes of alleged unorthodox sexual activity. Steele's primary source for the information in the dossier, for instance, told the FBI he or she may have talked about Trump's alleged sexual activities in jest and couldn't confirm whether the tape was real, the report says, quoting the source. Quote, the primary subsource explained that he or she reported to Steele that Trump's alleged unorthodox sexual activity at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel was just rumor and speculation and that she had not been able to confirm the story, the report says. Oh boy! There you go. That's how the FBI attempted to verify it. They talked to the primary subsource who said, it was just in jest. That's Igor Danchenko, by the way. Many of the claims by Steele, a former British spy, have held up over time, or have proven to be at least partially true, including the fact there was a concerted Russian operation in attacking the 2016 election. The Justice Department's brought criminal charges against dozens of Russian hackers and online trolls. Yes, they charged people at the Internet Research Institute, which they then had to drop the charges because they didn't have evidence that they were assets of Russia. Steele's dossier also asserted that Trump could be vulnerable to Russian blackmail, among other things. The salacious allegations in Steele's memo remain unproven nearly 3 years after the memos went public, a point in which Horowitz's report on Monday underlines. Still not proven. Almost sounds like when I said that they never were able to verify that I was correct. The report on Monday gives a thorough retelling of the FBI officials traveling abroad to interview Steele and a source of his to keep track of allegations raised in the dossier in a spreadsheet. Inspector General Michael Horowitz described an extensive effort by the FBI to learn about Steele's sources and interview his primary source. Steele's primary source on the dossier told the FBI that Steele misstated or exaggerated his or her statements in the dossier. Let me repeat that. Igor Danchenko, the primary subsource, said that Christopher Steele misstated or exaggerated his statements in the dossier. The FBI conducted interviews of the primary subsource in January, March, and May of 2017 that raised significant questions about the reliability of Steele's election reporting. So, as I said, remember when earlier in the show I said, why would it matter if I say my neighbor told me something if the cops go and talk to the neighbor and they say, no, that's wrong? That's what happened. Christopher Steele didn't see anything about Trump's alleged wrongdoings. He said that Igor Danchenko did. And Igor Danchenko says, I was speaking in jest a lot of that, and Steele's misreporting what I said, and yet the FBI continues to use Christopher Steele's dossier to get warrants after this. Determining how the FBI used Steele's work embedded it became a key to the Justice Department Inspector General this year, as Inspector General Horowitz looked into how the FBI cited Steele's dossier when it sought surveillance of Carter Page. Horowitz notes some of the information Steele collected could have possibly been disinformation planted by Russians. Oh boy! Russian disinformation and collusion doesn't matter, though, when it's the FBI and Democrats doing it. The Inspector General didn't attempt to vet this possibility because it's outside of his scope, Horowitz writes. Oh boy, wouldn't it be nice if the FBI actually investigated that sort of Russian disinformation and collusion? At first, when the FBI was communicating with Steele, FBI leadership told the CIA they believed him to be a reliable source. Then FBI official Andrew McCabe, now a CNN analyst, was pushing for intelligence agencies to take Steele's report on Trump seriously, but the view did not prevail, Horowitz said. Steele had briefed the left-wing magazine Mother Jones about his work in October 2016, causing murmurs about the Steele dossier to begin to circulate publicly. Because of the Mother Jones story, FBI stopped using Steele as a source. Beginning in mid-November 2016, the effort to verify the dossier began, Horowitz said. Strzok and Bill Priestap, then FBI officials leading Crossfire Hurricane, went abroad on a first trip, and Strzok, Lisa Page, and others traveled in December 2016. Now, beginning in mid-November 2016, the FBI decides, geez, maybe it's time, maybe we should go and try to verify this. This is the source that this guy used, Justin Friedkin used to debunk me. Take the L, bro, just take the L. Take the L. Now, my claim was they didn't even attempt to verify it before they went and got a FISA warrant. Yeah, Rob, they did, because if you look, the title of this article says how the FBI attempted to verify the allegations in the Steele dossier. So clearly they did attempt to verify. See? You see? I'm not going to read the article. When did they attempt to verify? According to his own article that he cites, November 2016. Interesting. When did they get their first FISA warrant? October 2016. Now, I'm no genius, but looking at my handy-dandy calendar here, I think that October comes before November. An FBI supervisory agent whose name is redacted signed their name on the initial FISA application in October 2016, saying, I declare under penalty of perjury the foregoing information regarding Carter Page is true and correct. Top approval for the initial application came from James Comey, who signed his name, which read in part that the certified with regard to the redacted requested this verified application targeting Carter Page, an agent of the government of Russia, a foreign power as follows, and that he executed the certification regarding Carter Page in accordance with the requirements with the FISA Act of 78. Top DOJ approval for the initial FISA application then came from Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, who signed it saying that she found the application satisfies the criteria and requirements for such applications and approved the filing of the application. The initial application regarding Carter Page satisfies the criteria. It was then signed by Judge Rosemary Collier of the U.S. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, whose signature attested that on the basis of the facts submitted in the verified application, there's probable cause to believe that the government of the Russian Federation is a foreign power and Carter Page is an agent of Russia. The October warrant granted them to have surveillance techniques through January 2017. So they got the warrant in October 2016. When did they attempt to verify? November 2016. That's right, Justin Friedkin, who was just on my chat here, said, Rob, take the L. He literally cited an article that debunks his own claim. It proves exactly what I was saying. That the relevant information that was used to claim that Carter Page was a Russian spy was never verified, and they did not even attempt to verify it until after they used it to get a FISA application. Then their attempts to verify all showed that it was bullshit, and they still resubmitted it 3 times after they had met with the primary subsource who told them, Christopher Steele's misrepresenting me. I was saying things in jest. 3 times after that, they continued to use this information to spy on the Trump team. Take the L, bro. Just take the L. Now, I know this guy isn't some bastion of intelligence, right? He proved that in the debate with me. Not very bright. I don't wish him ill or anything like that. But what he is he's a good look into a certain cross-section of Democrats and people that will believe any bullshit that CNN tells them. As long as it's going after Orange Man, it must be good. Pisco is the same way. Pisco's a little smarter than Justin, but the Igor Danchenko story is insane. The FISA warrant story is insane, and no one will ever be held accountable. The FBI took Russian-sourced disinformation paid for by Hillary Clinton that they knew was bullshit and used it to spy on a president of the United States. And then they gaslit you saying, oh my God, Russian disinformation so bad we need to censor people online. When it was them all along that was peddling Russian disinformation that they knew was bullshit and was using it not just to put information on the media and online to smear Trump, but was actually using it to spy on his team. And no one seems to give a shit. Well, that's the real question. I'm sorry, my Goku. Right. If the Republicans don't do anything back, who gives a shit? That's this Durham. Okay, now we know the information. I've known it since 2017. But great, Durham confirms 5 years later, and there are details that I was unaware of about Rodney Jaffe, using DNS data to concoct this story. I mean, it's unbelievable. The same people today that are out there telling you how dangerous disinformation is online and we need to do more to censor it, they peddled this bullshit to spy on Trump. People were calling for Jeff Sessions' head because, oh my God, he might be biased and have political prosecutions against Democrats. We can't have that. Must recuse, must recuse. Same with Bill Barr. Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr were there to make sure no one got charged for their corruption in the FBI. But still the Democrats freaked out. And yet they're perfectly fine with the FBI doing this. What the Durham investigation's about is getting all this information. They constantly do this. Do you ever wonder why? You remember when the New York Times put a story out, it was like 2 weeks ago, and it was like, oh, True the Vote has this conspiracy that Konek company, was selling polling data or, information on poll workers to China. It's a conspiracy theory, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day, the New York Times had to say, the president of Konek company has been charged with doing exactly what we said was a conspiracy theory yesterday. Do you ever wonder why that happens all the time? Why is it that these big left-wing news sources break a story? Why, for example, why did Time Magazine put an article out talking about a shadowy cabal fortifying the election for Joe Biden? Why do that? It's because 6-7 years later, when it gets revealed, look, this shit was going on, they're able to say, yeah, we knew. They control the narrative by releasing the facts and then burying the lead and going, yeah, but it's no big deal. It's all for your protection. Yeah, that's right, to get ahead of it. That's what Durham's doing. Now, if DeSantis is president and he's like, we're going to take a look into this, they'll say, we already did. We already knew all that. We knew it. And even if an attorney general under DeSantis or Trump starts bringing charges against FBI people, then the media will gaslight you. This is not new information. We've known this. It's old hat. Why bring it up now, is what they'll say. I talk about this all. This is constantly what they do. When something's happening in real time, they tell you you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a nut, how dare you believe this shit, it's disinformation, you should be silenced. And then 4 years from now, when you're proven correct, they say, it's a long time ago, maybe things should have been differently, oh well. Just, sometimes it's not even 4 years. Sometimes it's a matter of months, like the Hunter Biden laptop story. It's all bullshit. It's Russian disinformation. Yeah, how many times does Alex Jones was right need to turn? Right. I was going to talk about COVID tonight, but I only got 20 minutes. I don't know. And to watch the left squirm and, no, it was legitimate. What happened was legitimate. It's okay. It's okay. Rob's just a conspiracy theorist. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's knee-deep in conspiracy. What have I said that's not true? I backed up every word that I've said about this. Every word. The only part that they could potentially call me a conspiracy theorist on is motive. We know the FBI did all this stuff. It's confirmed. They admit it. The question is, are they incompetent or are they corrupt? That's it. And the bootlickers say, well, okay, they made some mistakes. No problem, nothing to see her, move on. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist if you think that their bias affected this and that it was corrupt. That's it. The same people telling you that Trump buried nuclear secrets in his ex-wife's grave are calling you a conspiracy theorist because you could see with your own two eyes what the leadership of the FBI thought of Trump. You could hear what Chuck Schumer said they were going to do to Trump. And you could watch the results, them using Russian disinformation paid for by Hillary Clinton that they never bothered to verify to spy on Trump's team. And they think you're a conspiracy theorist for coming to the rational conclusion this was corruption. And what's worse is, well, I don't know if it's worse. It doesn't even matter if they think you're a conspiracy theorist. Let's say that you legitimately think it was just the FBI was incompetent. The FBI they were duped. They didn't know that they were supposed to verify information before they used it to get FISA warrants, particularly when it was on a presidential campaign. They just didn't know. They were duped. Oh well, oh boy. When they were changing information, Kevin Kleinsmith was changing emails to say the opposite of the truth. He was duped. He was just duped. Oh well, no big deal. When 17 times there were errors and omissions to the FISA court by it was a whoopsie. It was just a big whoopsie. That's all. And it just so happens that there were a lot of big whoopsies on the Hillary investigation. When they forgot to look into what the one FBI agent was whistleblowing about on Anthony Weiner's laptop, all the emails from Hillary, just another whoopsie. It's all just whoopsies. That's all. No problem. Even if you believe that, which is absurd, but okay, even if you believe that, and you're like, well, robnoerr's a crazy conspiracy theorist because he thinks that the FBI was intentional, corrupt. In reality, they're just buffoons. Why would you spend your time criticizing me instead of saying, well, you know what's more important than saying that Rob's a conspiracy theorist? I believe that the FBI is horribly incompetent. Why is nothing being done? Isn't that odd? Listen to these people, right? When I talk to Pisco, he doesn't have anything to say about the border crisis, people dying in the river trying to cross, people being sexually trafficked, people dying in trucks. Nothing to say about that in his social media. Nope, nothing to say. But as soon as DeSantis sends some illegals to Martha's Vineyard, oh boy, there's stuff to say now. But trust him, he cares about those other issues. What are we supposed to do? The FBI is incredibly incompetent. What can we do? Anyway, it's time to move on. Really? You're okay with that? You're okay leaving it there? Right, Paul Cabetta deletes subpoenaed emails. Oh well, no big deal. What can we do now? Oh well. What's up, Barry? By the way, I haven't confirmed this, but I was reading articles today that say that it looks like the Bidens were getting interest-free loans from Russians. Imagine if it was Trump. It's okay, though. It's the Bidens. All of a sudden getting millions of dollars from government agents in Kremlin doesn't matter now. It's Biden. It's cool. It only matters if it's Trump. And the bootlickers, right? It's the same with election issues. What do they say? I got to be careful. I'm on YouTube. I'm not saying the election was stolen, YouTube. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when people suggest, when they want to talk about the election, the response is, the court's already looked at that. There's nothing to see. Really? Can you show me the case? What I saw was the courts, for example, in the Texas lawsuit saying Texas doesn't have standing. Now, that just doesn't prove that there was cheating. That's not what I'm saying. But if your answer to there was no cheating is, well, the court's already looked at everything. They did not. They expressly said there's no standing, so we're not looking at it. Some of the things courts may have looked at, I'm not saying, but this is just like, they just rely on appeals to authority. That's all it is. Well, CNN told me it's all good. Joe Biden's team told me it's all good. So that's it. I don't know what else you want me to say. That's it. Take the L, buddy. Yeah, I saw that, David. It's the same shit with COVID. You know, what I wanted to talk about with COVID was, you remember when I was debating Dylan Burns and I was debating Hunter Avalon and I was debating all these people and I was talking about not liking the mandate. I was not saying the vaccine will kill you, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't what I was saying. To this day, I believe, if you want to take the vaccine, you should absolutely be allowed to take the vaccine. My suggestion is you shouldn't be listening to my suggestion. But if you want to hear it, it is talk to your medical provider that you trust and tell them your unique situation and come up with the best plan for you. And if that plan between you talking to a doctor you trust is take the vaccine, you know more about your body and your doctor knows more about it than I do. That's it. I just didn't think the government should be forcing people. That's it. And the data from the CDC showed that when it came to some of the groups that were being forced, such as young, healthy people or people that had prior COVID in cases, that the numbers weren't adding up. And no one could handle me on this debate. Hunter Avalon, Pauly People, Dylan Burns, Sonsol, Ruminate, all of them get blown out of the water. Well, I need to do more research. That's all they have to say. In these debates, one of the things that came up over and over was that you're selfish if you don't take the vaccine because the vaccine's about preventing you from getting other people sick. And this was the entire justification for forcing the mandate. And you don't have to be a genius or have an excellent memory to know this. Because one, you could live through it and you saw what the rationale was. But second, it just logically makes sense. For example, all of us know that the government has not forced people, for example, to take diabetes medication or to take blood pressure medication. And the reason is, and lefties would tell you this, well, this is different because now you're putting other people at risk. Right, that's the argument. That's the entire argument. The argument wasn't the government's forcing you to do this for your own good. The argument was, hey, if you want to be a moron, be a moron. But once you endanger me, now the government has the right to tell you you can't do that. That was the argument. And therefore, you're endangering me by refusing to take the vaccine. And you'll remember that I had conversation after, for example, the one speech Biden gave either right as he was running for president or right after he was elected, where he talked about your chances of being hospitalized if you're vaccinated. And I did the math on it. It was something like 1 in 100,000 or something per day. An insanely, over a 10-year period, you had like a 1 in 300 chance if you were vaccinated, according to Joe Biden's numbers, of being sent to a hospital. Not dying, not having a serious case, just going to the hospital. Which led me to say, okay, if taking the vaccine gives you that much protection, then why do you give a shit if your neighbor took the vaccine? You're protected. If your neighbor wants to be an idiot and not be protected, so be it. That's fine. That's none of your business. If your neighbor wants to be a fat schlub that doesn't exercise and you're out there jogging every day at 6 a.m., hey, that's your neighbor's business. You'll probably be right in the end that yes, you'll live a healthier life. Probably, on average. Maybe you'll get hit by a car. Who knows? But you get the point. But if you're protected, if that's what the vaccine's doing, well, it keeps, it doesn't stop me from getting COVID or stop me from spreading COVID, but boy, does it really protect me. And that was the argument. That was the discussion I was having with people. Can you still spread the virus if you get the vaccine? Some people said no. Rachel Maddow and many others. I have a video I can pull up. But they said, no, if you get the vaccine, you can't spread it. Well, that was clearly bullshit. We started to find out early. So if it's just about protection, Well, that's right, Achilles. Democrats started, go back and watch my debate with Destiny, right? Destiny called me out on this when I said Biden and Kamala Harris and many other Democrats before the election said we wouldn't trust a vaccine that Trump pushed. Then all of a sudden the tune changed once they won the election. Oh boy, now not only do we trust it, you should be forced to take it, they said. That was their claim. I'm getting a little lag here. Give me a second. That was the discussion I was having with people. Now we find out, okay, Pfizer admitted. They said, okay, we never had data at the time of release about preventing transmission. Excuse me? That was the whole argument. The argument wasn't, this is a medication that will help you. That's fine. If that's what it was, just be honest about it. If they said our data suggests that taking this vaccine will prevent you from having, it will lower your chance of having a significant case of COVID. That's still a drug worthwhile. Who would poo-poo that? If that drug actually did that, that's a good thing. But that wasn't the bill of goods we were sold, because that wouldn't justify mandates. That wouldn't justify forcing people to take it. The only argument that they used to justify that was, well, if you don't take this, then you're more likely to spread it to other people. I knew it. You all knew it. The people I was debating knew it. Everybody knew that's what the argument was. And now they're trying to rewrite history as we speak. We never said that. We didn't say that. Now, to his credit and absurdity, Dylan Burns did say, yeah, I guess I would be okay with forcing an unhealthy person to take blood pressure medication or be tested every week at work, because he's an insane authoritarian. But almost everyone else was like, no. It's the same with the mask. Remember, the mask narrative was you wear it to protect other people. It's not that it protects you, it protects other people. So you're selfish if you're not wearing the mask. Remember, that was the argument. And then I was like, okay, well then what's with all this Herman Cain died shit, right? Because the argument was, oh, Herman Cain was in an event without a mask last week and now he's dead. Ha ha ha. See, that's what you get for not wearing the mask. And I was like, but wait a minute, I thought the whole point of the mask wasn't to protect you, it was to protect other people. The narrative switches as they see convenient over and over and over again to justify their authoritarianism. And step by step, people like me are proven right. And how many strikes have I got on YouTube? How many people have called me conspiracy theorist? How many left-wingers chortled that how stupid I am and that I'm a conspiracy theorist that have way more viewers than me that were full of shit? I talk to people that are supposedly experts or qualified in the field. I talked to Econoboy about how lockdowns were going to hurt the economy. No. Then they did. And he's like, yeah, I guess they did. About how massive money printing would lead to inflation. It'll be better by the end of the year, he said. Can't wait to talk to him. How does this happen? How is it that these experts in all of these fields, the scientific community, the foreign policy community, economists, how am I right over and over again? And they're wrong. Am I right about everything I've ever said? No. I was telling everyone going into 2020, even 6 months out of the election, that they were going to pull Joe Biden. He wasn't going to be the candidate because he had dementia. I was wrong. I thought Elizabeth Warren was going to be the choice. That's what I thought. Wrong. But predictions of politics, it's important who's right and who's wrong on that stuff. No one's going to be perfect. But these sorts of things that I'm predicting, this isn't rocket science. This isn't shot in the dark type stuff. This is, you shut down the economy and you massively increase the supply of money. It's going to cause inflation and economic problems. No, the experts say, nope. Looks like this virus could have came from a lab in China. No, the experts said. How dare you? You should be censored for saying that. Locking down children from schools is really bad. It's going to be more harmful than good. Nope. Now we've moved on to now Dr. Fauci's on TV saying, I never said to lock down kids from school. That wasn't me. They say, when you point out that it's a problem, they say, no, you're wrong. Then when you're proven right, they're like, well, we've always said that. We never said that it prevented transmission. Yes, you did. By the way, if Alex Jones could be sued for $1 billion because he's caused grief to parents of kids that were died in a school shooting, how much money can people that said that if you get the vaccine, you can't get COVID, how much money are they able to sue the people that said that? The people who got the vaccine and then ended up getting COVID and dying from it? How much are they able to sue for? Just curious. Awful lot of pundits, awful lot of Twitch experts and mainstream media people and Democratic politicians that were publicly saying that. So just curious, because Alex Jones didn't cause physical harm to anyone. He may have caused emotional harm. But if you believed Rachel Maddow, oh boy. So let the lawsuits fly, correct? What about the people that lost their small businesses because of lockdowns? That were told they were cowards by my Governor Tom Wolf if they didn't embrace the lockdowns, that now we know we're full of shit. They get to sue? Or do you only get to sue people that the establishment doesn't like Alex Jones or Kanye West? Yeah, I read a report that said that Boston University created a strain of COVID that is 80% lethal if you contract it. Oh boy! Yay! I'm sure nothing will happen, though. I mean, it's not like COVID was a great boon for the most powerful in the world and they consolidated their wealth and power in multiple ways. I'm sure they have no incentive to keep it going. Right? What if the vaccine, on average, is more harmful to certain groups of people than helpful? Then what? I'm not saying it is, YouTube. I'm just asking questions. What if the vaccine's incredibly good for people that have heart conditions, or asthma, or that are on ventilators, or that are obese, or that are old? What if the vaccine's great for those people? But the side effects from it are actually more dangerous when it comes to people with a different risk profile, such as a 20-year-old that's incredibly fit and healthy who's already had COVID. What if it breaks down that way, and you were one of these people on the left saying, make that 20-year-old, force them to put that needle in their arm. Force them. How do you live with yourself? What do you say? Oh, we're sorry. Sorry about that. Sorry. They'll sleep like fucking babies. Because they don't just think they're right. They think that they're better than you. They think they're more moral than you. These weren't questions of science. This was question of religiosity is what it was. You believe us or you're evil, you're immoral. And so those dirty people that didn't take this vaccine, they're immoral, they're evil, and we have to punish them. We'll make their lives hell until they're forced to take the medication we want. There's no coming back from that. There's no, oh shit, I was wrong. My bad. You called people the enemy. You took away their bodily autonomy. You forced them to do something that may be worse for them in the future. But Rob, what if you're wrong? About what? My stance was always talk to your medical professional and make the best choice you can for yourself. The people who are justifying government force upon you are the ones that must be certain that they are correct before they justify it. Me saying, I think you should be allowed to make up your own mind. I didn't even take a stance, really. My stance was always on the vaccine. It's difficult for a layman to go through this data. We're still learning things. You are right to question it. It seems like a new type of thing, and there's certainly people that are profiting from it. And anytime someone tells you you can't look into something, that's exactly what you should be looking into. But my gut feeling was, and I still feel this way, for people that are in a very bad situation, like you're in a nursing home, you have COPD, etc., probably a risk from a vaccine. For example, let's say that, and I'm not saying this is the case, but let's say that we definitively find out 5 years from now that vaccines really affected with people's menstrual cycles and it affected ability to procreate, whether it be men or women, right? That's a very serious side effect. But if you're 75 and in a nursing home, you're probably willing to accept that if it gives you protection against COVID. So my take on this was always, like most medications, there are probably risk profiles that make sense for, and probably risk profiles it doesn't make sense for. I never came on here and said, under no circumstances take this vaccine. I didn't say that. I didn't say it at all. But let's for a second say that I did. Or let's say, like Joe Rogan was out there, which he didn't say this, but let's say Joe Rogan was out there saying, y'all should take ivermectin. He never said that, but let's say he did. So if someone's saying, don't take the vaccine, or someone's saying, take this medication, and it turns out that maybe that vaccine is helpful and could have saved lives, or it turns out that maybe it is harmful to take ivermectin. The level of blame I assign to that person is far less than the level of blame I put on someone who's wrong that forced you to do something against your will. If I say to you, and I'm not saying to you, I'm just so you know, I'll preface this by saying this is just a hypothetical, and I'm also living paycheck to paycheck and broke the majority of my life, so never take financial advice from me. But if I were to say to you, if you have to come on right now and say, listen, invest in GameStop, liquidate all the, mortgage your house, do whatever you can to liquidate your assets, invest it all in GameStop, guarantee in the next month you'll be rich. 1,000% increase, right? If I was to say that to you and you do that, and then you lose all your money, yeah, it sucks. I was wrong, it's terrible, and you might assign some sort of moral culpability to me. But that culpability is far less than if the government says, hey, guess what? GameStop's going to go through the roof. So we're hereby taking all of your money and forcing you to put it in the stock of GameStop. And then GameStop collapses and they go, oops, our bad. That is magnitudes worse. Suggesting someone do something that's a bad suggestion is bad. Forcing someone to do something that ends up being bad is infinitely worse. And that's what all of these bootlickers wanted. We should force you to take the vaccine. We should force your life to be miserable. We should force your children to stay home. We should force you to have a vaccine passport. When you do those things, and you're wrong, you are a fucking monster. We're sorry doesn't cut it. And no one's been held accountable. They're trying to rewrite history as we speak. We didn't say that. We didn't say it. Again, by the end of this, they're going to be saying Trump's the one who pushed vaccines. That's how we're going to full circle. I don't disagree, Mitch, that doctors will lie, but that's why you should get a doctor that you trust. Look, not everyone's in my situation. I live in a small... Let me tell you a brief little story here that seems unconnected, but to me it's connected. I was talking to someone the other day, I can't remember who it was, and it might have been BPF, and they were saying that they were talking to a leftist, and they were like, the Scandinavian countries, like, did you know, like places like Denmark, for example, right? Did you know that in Denmark, they have farm stands where they just put produce in a stand and they put a little bucket there to pay and no one's manning the stand? They just have so much trust in their community that you could just, there's pumpkins, there's potatoes, whatever. I'll take those. I'll put the correct change in the box and that's it. And then someone comes and takes the money in the box. And I think it was BPF and he's like, I was explaining to him that happens in the United States. That happens in the United States. That happens in my neighborhood. Literally, 5 minutes from my house is this guy who his profession is, in addition to having a farm, he's also an auctioneer. That's what he does. And he put up this real nice little, shed that you could walk in. It's probably, 10 foot by 6 foot, 10 foot wide, 6 foot deep. And there's canned goods, jellies, pickles, tomatoes, potatoes, some flowers. No one's running it. I don't think there's a camera or anything. Just a box there. Put your money in the box. Simple. I think that somehow, or sometimes that doesn't let me, it gives me a different perspective than maybe the average person. Doctors around here, you see it, high school sporting events. You've known them your whole life. Their dad was your dad's doctor. I'm not saying it's beyond that person to have self-interest and to say, hey, you should take this medication because it'll get them money. But I have to trust someone. It's like a mechanic, right? Like, one of my favorite shows is Seinfeld. There's an episode where Putty, who's Elaine's boyfriend, he's a mechanic. And Jerry gets mad because he tells Elaine, or he tells Putty this sex move that he uses. And then he finds out through Elaine that Putty stole his move. And so he's mad. And so then he takes his car to a different mechanic, and that guy screws him over. And he says this line, he's like, I don't care about the move, I don't care about anything. Do you realize how much a good mechanic's worth? Right? But the lesson learned is, you gotta trust someone at some point, with your car. Unless you yourself are a mechanic, at some point, you're kind of at the... Now, if you get screwed over by a mechanic, you know not to go back to them. But at some point, unless you're a complete jack of all trades, you're gonna have to, when I go in, if the mechanic tells me something and it remotely makes sense, and the price seems reasonable, I'm not gonna be I don't trust anyone. Everyone's out for a buck. It's sort of like that with doctors. Yeah, you could research stuff to yourself, it's to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, if I go in and my doctor's like, your blood sugar's out of control, here it is, we tested it, and we're going to put you on this medication, I guess I could be like, but you probably have an incentive to provide that medication, right? But I just choose not to. For what it's worth, I had to take several COVID tests. I got COVID. at one point. Because of the nature of my work of working in home health care, I had to repeatedly be tested at different facilities. Many of the professionals, whether it be nurses or doctors that I was talking to regarding things surrounding COVID there, were all over the park. But more than half were incredibly skeptical of many of the claims that were being made by our national media and Dr. Fauci and etc. Many of them complained about everyone having to wear masks in there and said they didn't think it was doing any good. Many of them complained about the quality of the PCR test and false positives and things of that nature. Many of them downplayed the severity of COVID for the majority of people that got it. So, yeah, having said that, there was a doctor in my town that 7-8 years ago was arrested because he was sleeping with female patients in exchange for providing them scripts of painkillers, which they were then abusing and selling. So, it goes both ways. But I get your point. I absolutely do, about being skeptical of people. But to me, the only point I'm trying to make here is they were so morally certain that they were on the right side, that so certain that they would force things upon you. And like forcing you to take a medication. And I said at the time, you better be right. Because if you're wrong, oh, I didn't know any better. I'm sorry. That is not an excuse I'm willing to accept. You wanted people silenced that raised questions. So if you forced something into someone that caused them harm, you have a lot to answer for. And if you're in a position of power and you did it, you may have criminal liability to answer to. And as I've said, I'd be shocked if in the next 5 years we get any sort of clear-cut consensus. Even if the data comes out and it's clear as a day, you'll see the Faucis of the world and their mouthpieces will be out there spinning and spinning and spinning. They'll say, we never said that. It was always, no one forced you. It was always your choice. We didn't say prevent transmission. We didn't say that schools should lock down. We didn't say that. We didn't say vaccine passports. We didn't say that. No, we never said that. Because they won't be able to admit, oh wow, not only were we wrong, but we accused people that were right of wanting grandma to die and said that they shouldn't be allowed to have those opinions. And then we forced people to make decisions. You don't have to take my word for it that that's where it's going. Let's take something that we already could see more evidence of, like lockdowns. It'll be the exact same. The narrative on vaccine mandates will be the same as the narrative we now see on lockdowns. The narrative on lockdowns was we have to do them 15 days to slow the spread. If we don't, it'll be disaster. Trump was even saying it. Florida's going to be the forever purge. Oh, Sweden's going to be, bodies will be piling up on the streets. Have to lock down. Have to do it. Then it was have to spend trillions of dollars. Have to. Have to do it. And people like me were like, these lockdowns. This is what was insane about the lockdowns. No one with half a brain thought that lockdowns wouldn't have any negative consequence. Yeah, I agree. I talked about Durham, a long way up. Absolutely true. Durham did fail. The left could take their victory lap. They tried to bribe Steele with $1 million to confirm the dossier. He was unable to do so, and they still... Which, again, I talked about this the other day. The fact that they offered him $1 million to confirm it proves that they knew it was important to confirm it. But once he was unable to, they still went ahead and used the dossier. So Durham not going after the right people, yeah. But, I'm going to finish up here talking about COVID. With the lockdowns, if you you don't have to be an economist to realize, okay, so you're suggesting stopping large swaths of the United States economy and the world economy. Yep. You don't think that's going to have repercussions economically? You don't think locking down children from school will have repercussions educationally, psychologically for children? You don't think there'll be psychological impacts to telling people they can't go to church, they can't go visit their family, they can't even go to public parks? You don't think there's going to be psychological and physical damage that causes? And one of the things I said over and over and over at the beginning was, we have a fear of an unknown. How bad will COVID be? And so our reaction are things that we know will be horrible. We knew that shutting down the economy and lockdowns and things like that were going to have devastating consequences. But we chose those consequences because of a fear of the unknown. You better be damn sure you're right. That's right, I wanted to be wrong about it. And they just brush it off. They're like, well, lockdowns didn't. This is the shit I hear about lockdowns. There were never lockdowns. No, my area never had lockdowns. Bullshit. There were a few areas that didn't have lockdowns at all. Almost none, though. Well, lockdowns were very beneficial. They saved a lot of lives. Prove it. They have no data to back up that claim. And the burden of proof's on them, right? Because I'll be like, okay, let's compare Florida to a place that locked down one of the least to New York, a place that locked down one of the most. Let's compare them. They'll say, no, you can't compare them. You can't compare them. Right. Okay. It's not, the evidence suggests I'm right that lockdowns didn't do much as far as stopping spread or death from COVID. But I'm not the one who has to prove shit. You're the people that want to force a lockdown, so you prove that it was necessary. You don't say, we are going to lock you down, now prove that we shouldn't. But by the way, this is how Democrats feel. Remember, I was on that panel. It was 4-on-4. There were I think American Nacho was there. I can't remember who the other right-wingers were. This was way back in 2000. And we're talking about COVID and stuff like that. And my takeaway, which I said at the end of this panel, was the right-wingers on this panel are basically saying you have rights, like the right to free speech, the right to free association, the right to go to work, right? The right to not be locked down. You have these rights. And for the government to temporarily restrict them, the onus of proof is on them that it's necessary. But the left-wing perspective on the panel was, you have to prove that you deserve those rights. So their default position is the government at any point for any reason could say, we're taking your rights away, now prove we shouldn't. And that's literally what the panel was. That's right, they needed an excuse for the... I totally agree with that, absolutely. And then they just do it over and over. Okay, now on to climate change. Okay, now on to Ukraine. Okay, now on to January 6th. It's always, we are right. The other side's so wrong. They should be banned off social media. We should go after, with contempt, our political opponents. No, this wasn't tonight. This was in 2000, this panel. Now, when I'm done with this video, I'll have to remove it from YouTube because I still will get a community strike for the things that I'm saying on here. you starting to understand why the left doesn't want to debate me? Starting to get it? They can't defend it. The people that did debate me on the vaccine mandates either got crushed, admitted that they didn't know enough to talk about it, and then didn't want to talk to me again about it. I have comfy.stream as my backup. Also, I have a Rumble channel. Thursday, we're going to talk about sort of predictions I have for the election going forward and what you're going to start to see happen. And just, spoiler alert, right? You're seeing already them laying the groundwork, right? You see Biden's quid pro quo. Hey, OPEC, don't stop producing oil until after the election, right? They know that we are going to have a lot of pain coming our way economically after this election. And so they're doing everything. They're depleting the reserves, whatever. They're already laying the groundwork. It's Republicans' fault. And in some ways it is. Let's not kid ourselves. Huge amounts of Republicans went along with lockdowns, went along with the trillions of dollars of printing. Donald Trump signed off on it. But this charge has been led by Democrats. The lockdowns, the war on energy. All of a sudden, all the left-wing drama streamers, that they don't have much to say right now about politics. Oh boy, they'll be ready to talk again once there's a Republican House. Those damn Republicans, that's the reason the economy, blah, 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 blah. I'll be on talking to people like Econoboy. We'll wait till the end of the year and say, okay, it's the end of the year. You said inflation wouldn't be a problem by the end of the year. How's that looking? And then he'll say, well, predictions are things happened. Putin's war, for one. Putin's war was a big thing, and then the Fed's, raising rates and things like, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. By the way, do you understand now that the last debate I had with Econoboy, which was months and months and months ago, but you understand what that debate was about, right? I go on someone else's channel, The Crucible, right? And The Crucible has rules. And the rules of The Crucible are so their channel doesn't get canceled. And so before comfy.stream, part of that meant there were certain things you couldn't talk about because they're streaming to YouTube and Twitch. And part of the thing that we were asked before the debate was to not mention COVID or the word COVID. So the debate on inflation, I'm hamstrung in that I can't even talk about the reason for inflation being lockdowns, etc. Because that has to do with COVID. But when the debate starts, I'm trying to say it without saying it. And I'm like, a lot of this economic devastation and stuff because of lockdowns. And to my shock, because I know that Econoboy supported the lockdowns, he says, I agree. Now, that's the debate. Debate over. Now the debate should have been 2 hours of me being like, okay, now prove that lockdowns were medically worth it. Because otherwise, Mr. Economics expert, you're admitting that you advocated for a plan that devastated the economy. And you knew it would, but it was going to save huge amounts of lives. So show me that it did. But we couldn't talk about it. But the debate we did have, in some ways, was equally important. And I had people on my channel that were telling me, I don't really have an understanding of, a deep understanding of economics in the conversation that we were having. And that conversation was massively expanding the M2 money supply, basically printing money, trillions of dollars. We increased the money supply by 50%. Did that help cause inflation? And Econoboy said no, it did not have much of an effect. And he used this equation has to do with the velocity of money, not just the printing. And I had some people, well, why is this even an issue? Well, one, it's an issue because I can't talk about the other thing. But second, it's an issue because I said, if we allow them to just blame the lockdowns, which, by the way, they advocated for, and not the money printing, then they're going to keep printing money. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Inflation Reduction Act. You see? They controlled the narrative. No, the printing of money doesn't cause inflation. Nope. And then they printed more money. Absolutely right, Tickleus Elmo. Absolutely right. If the Republicans win in the House, then they'll say, oh, it's officially a recession, and it's the Republicans' fault. Over and over, I debate these people. It's easy for them. All of the institutions are on their side. Debate someone on COVID, fuck, you couldn't even say shit and you were banned off social media. Go to any news source. There it is. Here they're feeding you line by line what you say to defend the mandate, etc. To defend lockdowns. What, Russiagate? Go to CNN. What's John Brennan, former head of the CIA? What's he saying? Just parrot that. Ukraine, same shit. And if you're a good debater and you're on that side, you could use those sources and you could spin and you could say, no, see. And then we look back 6 months. Well, who was right? Oh boy, I was right again. When people were telling me I was a moron for saying lockdowns would be devastating. Now they're like, well, yeah, but anyways, trust me now. And then what they're saying, then trust me now the way to solve it's massively printing money. Then 6 months later when we look, we're like, holy shit, now we got inflation. Yeah, but trust me now. All right, I'm going to be heading out. Thank you all for sticking with me. I know these shows aren't as high quality, when I don't have the camera and stuff, but there's nothing I can do about it for now. Who are we going to raid? BX Bullet? So, we're going to grow the channel. I got some things in mind. I'm always busy. But thank you, Barian. Really appreciate it. We're going to grow it, though. I think I'm one of the better sort of streamers that's been calling this stuff out. So I hope that people enjoy it. And if you really want to help me, financial donations appreciated. But yeah, just send a link to my show to people that might like it, I don't disagree, Tickle. I don't. So, all right, we're going to raid BX, so enjoy this raid of her. I'm going to get some work done. Take some more medication. I did gain the title of Robstradamus, so thank you all so much. All right, we'll talk to you all. Tomorrow I should be streaming with Aircraft Sparky. That'll probably be around 9 p.m. Eastern, so check that out. I'll be at my home studio, I should be, so it should be a good time. Thank you so much, everyone. As always, have a good one.
This whole other end of the spectrum, right? Where they'll say to me, how dare you post one of my YouTube videos in a tweet in a negative context? You're flagging me, right? She's trying to deplatform me because she's criticizing my content, right? But then, other people will come in here and say, what are you doing to not get banned on Twitch?